I'm now going to hand over to my colleague, Miranda, who is the economist correspondent in Southeast Asia, who's going to be discussing the new battlegrounds around the region. Welcome, Miranda.
Thanks, Simon. Good morning, everyone. We've got an important panel, so let's get going with it. I'd like to invite up Shane Hodges, who's the Vice President in Asia Pacific for American Airlines. Also joining me on stage is James Tong, who is the Managing Director and Regional Head of Global Shipping and Logistics for Asia Pacific and Japan for Citibank. Thank you both for joining me. Morning. I think I'm going to go on the end here, so perhaps you can go in the middle. Sure. James on the end, that'd be fantastic. Good morning. Thanks for being here. So we've heard on one side sort of an activist perspective, obviously moving onto the corporate side now with you both. From the study that we saw this morning that Charles went through, one of the kind of interesting slides for me was the one showing that companies which perceive themselves to be leaders on LGBT issues also consider themselves more innovative, to have a stronger brand, among other positive attributes. I wondered, start with you, Shane, and then move over to James. Firstly, does your company consider itself, a leader on LGBT issues? And if so, does it also consider itself to be more innovative, to have stronger brand presence on that kind of thing?
Sure. And thanks very much for having me. And I apologize. I've been on a plane, as you do in the airline industry, I've been on a plane for about 3 weeks. I may not be the freshest, but there's certainly no other place I'd rather be. Look, I'll answer that question by taking you on a little journey back in time, if it's okay. American Airlines from 1978 until 2013, in terms of total profit, didn't make $1. So from 1978 to 2013, there was a boom-bust mentality in the aviation industry in the US where my company didn't make a single dollar. Go to 2013, the last 4 years, the company has made $21 billion. On average, we will make anywhere from $3 billion to $7 billion this year. We should make $5 billion. That's, and there's a reason I'm telling you this, trust me. And so nothing for about 35 years, $25 billion in 5 years. And I also go back a little bit to 2013. That happened because of consolidation in the US aviation industry. So it went from about 10 airlines to 3 that really are operating globally. And so that consolidation, though, for about 2 or 3 years, we merged with US Airways. We were very much looking inward. So for 3 years, so imagine this. So for about 30 odd years, all you're doing is surviving. All you're doing is surviving from month to month. And so were we focused on culture? Were we focused on our team? Were we focused on diversity? Yes, we were doing things, but it absolutely wasn't our priority. The priority was surviving. Mm-hmm. And then from 2013 for 3 or so years, was our focus on culture and diversity in our team? No, we were merging 2 really big airlines into what is now the world's largest airline. And the reason I go through that history is that from boom bust, not focusing on culture, not focusing on your team, we are now in a completely different industry in the aviation industry globally, certainly from an American perspective. Our CEO and chairman, Doug Parker, who is a super leader, says he has asked us, the company, to take a leap of faith. That leap of faith is that we are no longer operating in an industry that is boom and bust. It's no longer an industry that is purely about the economics of survival. It's about creating a journey now that is building a legacy that is going to be bigger than just being a really large airline. And so how he's translated that is that there's 4 really big goals of our company moving forward now that we're in a sustainable position. And one of those 4 priorities of the company is based on culture. There's the belief that if we focus on the culture of our company, we will be not only the world's largest, but the best airline. And a key pillar of that is the focus on diversity. And because of that, I'm incredibly proud to work at the company. Obviously, I'm reasonably new to the company. I didn't go through those tough and terrible times. But what I see is a company that's taking a leap of faith. It is financially sustainable, the company and the industry, and we now have not only the ability, but the responsibility to think beyond our own commercial success, and we are certainly doing that now moving forward. So yes, I do believe, and our company believes, it's in our charter moving forward. The three other things are traditional, be innovative, buy new planes, have a good product. That's normal in our business. But one of the four is build a culture that is very different to what we've had for the last 35 years. So
I was going to say that if we let James answer, I'd love to sort of come back on one or two of those points. But sort of, James, is Citibank a leader in this area, and does it see benefits from that?
I think it's not just only Citibank. I think any service provider industry should be looking at all sort of clients that you might be having. And I think definitely we have been the leaders, particularly we've been in the banking industry for more than 150 years in Asia too. We've always been leading in terms of the technology. We're very proud to be one of the very few global banks. So it is in our DNA that we have been working with diversity. And because of that, that makes us unique. And I think it is important for company in order to go global, particularly nowadays it's all connected by internet, and young people all connected by mobile technology. And if we are not looking for the next generation revenue maker, and they will lose lots of business. Not to mention, if you are not looking into diversity, you will also be exposed to risk that is the unknown. I think whether it's for business opportunity or for risk management, I think it is really necessary, and we've been doing that for quite some time.
Shane, sort of on that point about, it's only in recent years that this kind of new approach to trying to craft a different sort of culture at American has come together. I mean, what precipitated the company to sit down and actually try and, sketch out a blueprint for what they would like something as nebulous as company culture to be? And how were different voices included in that? And in particular, how were LGBT voices included in that sort of company self-assessment, as it were?
Well, we had, and please don't get me wrong, the company has led in many ways in diversity, in particular LGBT areas. We've been the only airline, one of 13 companies for the past 14 years to be rated 100% compliant with HRC's corporate index of how we work with LGBT advocacy groups. So we've certainly done things. It's not just the last few years, but this is the first time that it's absolutely front and center a priority of the company, and that's different. Companies have hundreds of priorities, and we act upon those, but this is one of the top four. And again, Doug and our leadership team are just so great with this, and the way that he puts it, and I'll get this wrong, the wording, but it'll be pretty close, is that we fly some 200 million people around the world every year. And we are a global airline now. Around 45% of our business is happening outside of the United States. And he simply says, and we believe this, simply to be the best airline in the world, with 200 million people flying on your planes that are absolutely as diverse as you can hope to see, if our team, if our 130,000 proud American Airlines employees do not reflect that diversity, we cannot understand our customer, we cannot understand the markets we work in, and we just simply won't be the best airline. We'll just be the biggest, and if we're not the best, we eventually won't be the biggest. And so our commitment is to reflect the diversity of the 200 million folks that we carry, and so of course we regulate to do that in the airline, but we also believe that regulation can only go so far, that it's about a mindset, it's a culture, it's behavior. And so we focus a great deal on the mindset, the behavior, and the culture. And I loved, I think it was Charles was mentioning, you can be an embassy which is fortified. American Airlines in Asia will absolutely respect our values within the walls of American Airlines office in Asia and Latin America and Europe. But we are also transitioning to be more advocates.
Yeah. Glad you sort of brought up that, when in Rome, embassy or advocate model. James, how do you see Citibank on this? And is there a difference at all, in sort of your American side of things and operations in Asia? Because obviously in the US, Citibank's been involved in, cases in North Carolina, cases at the federal level, trying to, push back on this issue.
Sure, I think in any organization, whether they are local, global, or regional, there will always be differences. I think in Asia, the difference is probably we don't talk about it a lot.
Oh, really?
It doesn't mean that it doesn't exist or it doesn't acceptance. I think we have to respect the culture locally, especially we're operating in more than 160 countries. And we understand that some of the jurisdiction might not be legal for the LGBT. I think this is something that we need to respect the law. But at the same time, within the company itself, we are intolerant of any intolerance. And sometimes we just don't need to talk about LGBT diversity inclusion, it's just diversity inclusion. And I think it is also the onus of responsibility of Asian, being an Asian too, why stepping up as advocacy, because if I do not stand up or stand out, my voice will not be heard. Whatever I'm representing or asking might be very different to the next Asian, might be very different to the lesbian, or things are getting, in Asia particularly, or even in the Western world, it's all about education. People might know LGBT, do they really know? I've heard of people that actually they have never met a gay man or a lesbian in their life. I think people can choose to see what they wanted to see. But I think it's important for LGBT and also for allies to really step out and also call it out, because it's just the right thing to do. At the end of the day, it's a humane thing to do, especially for banking too. I think we all think that like the LGBT might have a higher income, might be catered for more traveling, the lifestyle is different. But if you do not know about that, you will not be able to create products to cater for that group, to capture that revenue. And I think, particularly in Asia, I don't think that it should be compared to the Western world in a way, because I think, particularly America too, everything is based on law. But there are lots of custom, lots of culture in Asia. They might not overtly accept LGBT, but they're not rejecting that either. So it gives some room for acceptance. I think Asian, particularly Asian, that we try not to embarrass our parents. We try to respect elderly. I think it is also a very personal thing too. It's just like not everyone wanted to come out, right? It's just like, oh, I just get divorced. You don't need to tell everyone. I think it's a really personal issue. But I just think that Asian, being Asian, different Asian culture too, should need to stand up, educate. It's about education. If you do not let people know you exist, people just would not know. So I just think that it's courageous to come out. But as a matter of fact, I think it also applies to straight people too. We're all afraid to be rejected. So take a little bit of risk. And also I think the inclusion is both ways. I've been talking to audience all the time. Being a gay man, I have to be inclusive of the others. Otherwise, how could I expect people to be inclusive of me? So share a little bit of what I do. You don't need to tell all the nitty-gritties. I think this is how you make friendships anyway. You divulge a little bit, you get to know each other. You don't just on day one, scarlet letter, I'm gay. You don't do that. So I think you just need more Asian to come out to talk, just because we just have a different way. So I think Citi just has been working with 116 countries, so definitely it would have a different way to deal with that matter.
Of course. Sort of, well, in the spirit of inclusion, I wanted to wake everybody up a little bit, and I hope you've all got one of these. And I wanted to pick up the point you made just then, James. I'm going to paraphrase you here, but essentially that, it's too difficult to compare sort of Asian companies on LGBT issues with American ones. And I just wondered in the room, can you compare Asian and American companies on their treatment of LGBT issues? Yes or no? We've got some yeses, a few nos. Ooh, it's quite divided. What do you think? Is that 50-50?
Yeah.
Yeah. The room's pretty split on that question.
That's good room.
Oh, yes, well done. We'll also open it up to questions very, very soon. So please, if you have one, wave your hand. A microphone will be coming round because I don't want to monopolise these two gentlemen. The other point I wanted to raise with you both, and Shane, you'll have to tell me a little bit more about whether American has been involved in, supporting kind of legal action around any of these issues. But certainly, James, I know Citibank, as mentioned, has been. When it comes to those kinds of conversations, in sort of C-suite meeting rooms, how do they occur? How do they go down? And why does a company decide to, really stand behind these issues in quite a public and perhaps even quite a risky way?
Yeah, quite immediate. I mean, I think a lot of people think that world's largest airline, American company, it must be a big beast to move, and there's layers of it's not. We're clear, and this is where it's important about leadership and how leadership can go through so many levels of an organization. It is clear what our goal is. Our goal is to support diversity around the world. We will respectfully advocate, and so it's a simple, quick action from Americans' point of view. And you've mentioned some incidents in the US, whether it's movements towards removing some of those advances had in the US military, whether it's removing language in certain government mission statements and a few other areas. We've been very, very quick to issue, and we're not political, we're just simply taking the position, and the right position, that is the world's largest airline. We have the right, we also have the responsibility to be vocal. And we simply just say that we fly 200 million people that are as different as can be around the world, and our job is to move folks around the world. And so when we see issues that affect whether it's in diversity, whether it's immigration issues, we speak quite openly to say, hey, our business is to move people around the world. Our business isn't to build walls. Our business is to actually open up barriers, open up borders so that we can move around the world, transact business, see family and friends, and just get to know each other a little bit better. So that's what we do. So quite quick and quite not a lot of back and forth. Out it comes, and we just put forward our position, which we're all clear on to start with.
Very simple. James, a similar story for you?
Pretty much so. As I mentioned, that we've been covering so many countries, diversity has been in our DNA. So it's not that difficult. I think it's just the right things to do too. And as I mentioned that if we are excluding one certain part of the group, then we are basically losing potential revenue opportunities. At the same time, we will be exposing our risk of not knowing. So in a financial world, particularly after the financial crisis too, I think this is something that most of the financial institutions would be very wary about that. And not to mention, I think most of the people are very educated in the banking industry too. They have been exposed to travel. They might even have gay clients. So I think just you equip yourself with something. You might need to agree with the LGBT, but then you cannot just turn it down, right? I think this is something that is just it goes down to personal. I believe that it's really goes down to personal. The leaders can come out. I'm sure most of the company will have these kind of laws or rules and code of conduct, but ultimately it goes down to the individual itself. How you cultivate this culture is really from the people. So I think the individual, so long as they're educated, just like me, I would just stand up and stand out. So I hope that people do so. And I believe young people will do so, particularly when I see that when I interview a lot of management trainee, summer interns, the first thing they ask is, oh, how's your bank's diversity inclusion policy? So it's in their blood. So we have, as a firm, we have to move ahead. or if you're not ahead, they have to move the same time with these new talents coming into the workforce. Otherwise, they just won't, they will all go to Google, they go to Facebook, they all want to sit in the beanbags. You know? So we just have to evolve.
Pesky millennials, hey? Opening it up to the floor, who has a question, please? And hopefully a microphone will make its way to you. Anyone want to be brave? I know it's the first question of the day, and that's a little scary, but okay, no, none for now. Okay, perfect. Oh no, one in the middle. I was gonna. Yes, very well done, ma'am. Microphone for the lady in blue, please. If you could introduce yourself as well, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, good morning. My name is Maureen DeRoy, running ABN AMRO for Asia Pacific. I know you started your career there, James. I just wanted to ask, James, so you have the values of your company. We have the laws and the regulation of our home regulator and lawmakers of non-discrimination, inclusive work environment. How do we match that with some of the governments that, you know, we have our operations where the law is still there, the remnant of the British laws, where it's still a criminal act to be gay. So, and in some countries here in the region, we cannot even have an economist event like this. So how do we match that? Because we need to adhere to both, and we need to adhere to our personal and our company values.
I don't think it's just only LGBT matters that is illegal in certain countries, same as, excuse me, abortion. So do you talk to your colleagues about abortion? It's the personal things. I think any company should provide a safe environment for every staff to excel. It's not about religion, it's not about gender or sexual preference. Actually, it's about merit. And I think every staff should be treated the same, they should be provided the same resources and a safe environment to excel. I think so long the management is very clear about this, as I mentioned, is how you use how you word it too. Sometimes you don't need to overtly say, oh, I'm supporting LGBT, you know. One of my seniors very eloquently mentioned that in an OPCO, Citibank is intolerant of any intolerance. I think this is already good enough. And also, in order to provide an inclusive environment, then everyone can excel. I think ultimately, everyone just wants to do their job and make some money and go home. But if you can extend additional to make some friends, that's a bonus. I think we should all take some risk anyway.
Oh, question at the front, please. In the meantime, while the microphone travels to you, question coming through on the app, gentlemen. What steps are you taking to be an LGBT ally? Shane?
Sure.
Concrete examples would be super.
Let me give you two examples. One is a resource group, and another is in the exciting world of procurement. So employee business resource group. So what we have at American is that we have a number of groups within the company, 130,000 associates strong, and we will financially and in terms of time and access to resource, support various chapters wherever they wish to be established around the world that will be an employee business resource group. And so we have our Pride resource group, LGBT, and those folks, and they certainly don't need to be gay, lesbian. There's plenty of other folks in those groups. They're not exclusive. It's very inclusive even within itself, but the chapters are global, and the company supports activity within those chapters, and those chapters support LGBT advocacy in their market. So that's one very concrete example. Another one's procurement. I'll give you an example just for my world. We are significant division for the company. I have a multi-million-dollar budget that I'm able to spend every year, and we are looking at the diversity approaches that our suppliers take, and we'll be directing funds towards those folks that are moving in the direction that matches the values of American. So just two examples of how you can operate maybe within an environment where it's not legal yet, but where you can show that there's ways that you can take steps forward that are going to be good for you, either economically as a company through procurement, or that you'll start just seeing that it's the right thing to do.
Fantastic. And question at the front here. Thank you so much.
Yes, hi, Julia Elliott from Morgan Stanley. So this is for both of you. Shane, you touched on it a little bit, but interested in hearing how you're affecting beyond your organization. So we've heard BlackRock, put a mandate out around women on boards, and particularly some things around the NRA in the U.S. Your partner airlines that you're part of globally, ensuring that you all have similar best practices, or James, institutional clients. How are we really using that side of the advocacy to impact on LGBT inclusion?
Great question. James, do you want to?
I just tell them gay jokes. See, break the ice, everyone's happy. I'm just be myself, I think. There's nothing I feel ashamed of. I'm just doing my work like how you deal with your clients. And most of the clients, you need to break the ice, they become personal friends. I'm a very personal person. Most of my clients will become my friends. So that is good for business too. And I think there are many subtle ways to do so. I do charity, let people know what I do. I'm an AIDS Concerned Board of Director. I do artworks too. I make my pins. People think it's Paul Smith, but it's not. I made that. This is how we do it, because when you wear these, you never know how you impact someone positively. It's a very subtle way to support. I think there are many ways. As an ally or as a gay man too, are also advocates of women issues. But they're very interested in knowing what my mom feels having a gay son, because it's more relatable, strategic. You make it personal. That's important because it's a lonely battle. We've got so many allies here. Get to know them. I will be very personally touched when an ally is telling me a story than just a gay man telling me how he comes out. I think this is a part that I hope that audience in here on the internet can do that, because it will make a difference. It's not for me, it's for you.
From our point of view, we're a competitive lot, the airline industry, and we watch each other very closely. And I guess what my approach is that we're investing and we're talking about it. And so when our competitors see it's a priority for American, and that we're investing in it, and that we're loud about it. And this is a great example. We're doing a lot of things behind the scenes. There's a lot of things you won't see. There's a lot of things that are quite private, and there's things that will be very visible, and this is a great example. So when I just know how it is, if we see one of our competitive friends in the industry prioritizing this, investing in this, and making noise about it, we're thinking they're onto something. And we might have to get onto that train as well. So I hope by investing in it, making it a priority, making it very transparent, very visible, I'm with you. I would love it if I'm in this environment where all the European airlines, all of the US airlines, anyone else that supports this really important work is talking in the same way. That starts to exact change. But we're happy to lead at American, but we certainly don't want to be out there on our own for long.
And final question. At the back, sorry. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Alain Bellin. I work for Swiss Re. And I have a question for James because you confuse me a little bit. You mentioned many times that, be part of LGBTI or having an abortion or being divorced, they're all things that are similar, so that what's the point in bringing that out? I came to this committee at work because I want to make a difference for that very reason. Someone was telling me that they cannot talk about their weekend on the Monday morning because if they say that I'm with my girlfriend or my boyfriend, it will tell too much. So it's the very little thing on the day-to-day that they cannot do. If I follow you well, you just have the solution by asking the top management to make the environment comfortable, and then it's all sorted out?
No, what I'm saying is a personal choice. I am already a role model stepping out. I call out. I don't think what else I can do. I'm an Asian face. I'm standing up in the front. I don't think I am confusing anyone at all. I'm just saying that while we're not advocate for this is a personal issue. But I just said having a position when I am privileged, I have obligation. And this is a personal matter. But what I'm trying to say that not everyone is in my position, right? I think you need to understand that this is a personal matters. But most important, as I mentioned, is a good ally. Call them out. When someone is bullying the LGBT or anyone, that's what I mean. I just think that people emphasize too much about the LGBT, but without doing the right things. A lot of people don't even want to be out. There's nothing wrong with it, right? They might be gay, but they don't want to talk about their boyfriend or girlfriends. What's wrong with it? But then I speak, as I mentioned, talk about gay jokes, right? I make it like a role model. I think that is something I'm vocal enough because I'm very visible. I'm visible in social media. I'm pretty out in most of my colleagues. Actually, they all know, actually, even though I cannot hide. Not that I want to. But then, on the other hand, just like non-LGBT colleagues too, they don't want to share either. So what I'm trying to say is, there will be an environment, there should be channels. I'm sure that there will be code conducts, there will be emergency call, calling for hotlines like that. But then it will be up to you, the one who sitting next to your colleagues, whether you want it to be a bystander. Because being a bystander, for me, you just pick the wrong side, because you're part of it. So I think it's not just only being one person saying out because I'm selfish, because I'm just doing it for myself. I just want people to accept me. But then, if you're really an ally, then do something. I don't know what else I can do, because I'm, in fact, very sensitive about my LGBT colleagues. I don't want to associate with them because I don't want to out them. I'm very sensitive about that issues. I'm extra careful. I make it very clearly in the network. Everything is BCC, because to protect them. I think it is important. It is also a personal choice. But as an ally, if you believe in that, it is, in fact, you should do more. Join the committee. This is the right thing to do, because you can learn a lot. If you're not LGBT, you have no idea how it feels growing up being in the dark all the time. And they might be comfortable to be in the dark. So a lot of entitlement that most of the straight people might have, the LGBT might be suffering. Think about that. Getting married, protection, having kids, same-sex visa, might be capital punishment. When you think about that, then you all know that being ally, you're already in a very advantageous position. Then be compassionate and be sympathetic, because it does take intelligence to be an ally. It's not just waving the gay rainbow flag. And I would like to change the tone of this. It's not about battle. It's about education. I don't think it's going backward, because if you look at 40 years ago when the rainbow flag flies, it's 40-year anniversary this year. It does take a lot of sacrifice, but when I look back, there are lots of advancement. I never knew that I could actually come on top of being gay before midnight. There'll be apps that people don't feel lonely anymore. My only concern would be the young people don't really need to come out anymore, because you can easily blend in. You got mobile technology. That means it takes even more of the allies to be accepting of them, so that they can be part of you. So this is how I do. So I hope that I'm not confusing you anymore.
A wonderful note to end on. Thank you, James and Shane, in this discussion of the public and the very personal. Thank you both so much.
Thanks, sir. Thanks, sir.
Thank you so much. You were wonderful.
Thank you.